Hey folks, today we're going to talk about doing a really loose abstract and the bigger size sketchbooks. I mean, I have one that's bigger than this, but this is the one that I'm going to show in the video today, which is just a really loose, intuitive process of building layers, starting with some Color Crayon and then building up layers of paint, doing lots of mark making, and lots of the early layers are covered, but I don't know if you can see, like if you really look closely, you can still see some of the early marks coming through the paint. It's really fun and a really enjoyable process. I love doing these. And then what I did was I added collage and kind of created like a grid abstract on top of this really super loose painting, which is something I really love to do too. So the materials that I used were Color One crayons. Those are the ones that are not water soluble. I started with a painted background, which you probably can't see anymore, which was kind of a medium pink. And then I used acrylic paint. I used neutral gray 5, which is a golden color. I used titanium white, portrait pink, which is, or pale pink, it's the same color in golden. They just call it two different names. And then medium magenta, and 3 yellows: yellow ochre, Naples yellow, and primary yellow. And those are the colors that I used in this palette that I have here. And it was just kind of pushing, pulling, and doing a whole bunch of different layers, and just a super fun, intuitive practice. I'm just really enjoying sharing how to build these loose abstracts with you. So I hope you enjoy this video. Please give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe if you like it. Thanks for joining me. I'm going right into the painted background with Color crayons. I'm ignoring the drawing that I had, just kind of did a little sketchy drawing on there. I'm just ignoring that. I have a crayon on each hand. It's a very intuitive warm-up exercise. Most of these under layers will be covered, but you can sometimes see some of them poking through. So a lot of this process in doing these loose abstracts includes a warm-up, and sometimes I just do them right onto the page or the canvas or whatever I'm doing, because it's really just part of my process. So working with two hands and working with your non-dominant hand, and I very often will switch the pencil or the writing tool or the charcoal or the paintbrush into my non-dominant hand. You'll see me do that a lot when I'm demonstrating. It really does tap you into your intuitive side, and it helps you create from a more authentic place. Here I've kind of gone back to some neo colors. I'm putting a little bit of color on there. And this is just a layer. So some or all of it or most of it will probably be covered over. And in those baby layers, we just want to just play with mark making and get some scribbles down. Now I've switched over to the paintbrush. I'm painting with neutral gray number 5. Neutral gray 5 is and golden is the same as the neutral gray in Liquitex, but golden also has a lighter one that I really like, and I think it's neutral gray 2, and I use both of those very often. They're just pre-mixed grays, and they're neither warm nor cool, which I really love using them for creating tones with other colors and painting them straight on. So like I'm doing here. Here I'm painting with my non-dominant hand, which I often do. Even when I'm painting realistically, you'll see me do this. I am ambidextrous right dominant, so I will get like a more authentic childlike marks if I switch into my left hand, which I do love doing. I mean, we're always trying to get back to that authentic mark making. At this point, I'm just adding layers and building layers and making marks, and not trying to make anything because this is an abstract. And right now I'm just using neutral tones. I'm using white, titanium white, and I'm using gray. And I'm just building up some layers over that base layer of pink. And I'll play with this until I feel like I want to start adding color. So I skipped ahead a little bit just to show you how I do this. I don't switch until I feel like it's the right time. And you'll know when you feel like it's the right time. Now I'm going in with some yellow. And I have 3 yellows on this in this painting. The yellow ochre, which is darker, the Naples yellow, which is a medium warm yellow, and the primary yellow. And sometimes I will mix those with white to get a more opaque. You'll see what I just put down is mixed with white. Just adding that in. When I'm doing this, I'm really not thinking too much. I'm squinting and looking and seeing where I want to add those colors. It's just a very playful, intuitive process. I don't do a lot of thinking when I'm working this way. I'm just kind of playing with the paint, seeing where I want to put it. It's very much a flow state that you'll get into. And if you can get yourself into doing those warm-ups first, it's a lot easier to get into this kind of flow state and just work intuitively from that right side of your brain. You'll be practicing mindfulness in no time. So that's why art is so relaxing and so good for us. It's very nurturing to do art because you forget about time, you forget about things that are stressing you out, and you can leave your troubles behind for a little while we are working on your art. Here I'm just kind of working across the page, and I'm adding a new color. I'm adding pink, and I'm using and mixing the medium magenta with pale portrait pink, which is also called pale pink in golden. They call it 2 different things. I don't know. It's the same exact color with 2 different names in the same paint brand, but I do like it. It's a very warm pink. And the medium magenta is a cooler pink. But they look really nice together, I think. And now I'm just continuing to build layers with these colors. And I do tend to make a lot of tints, which are any color plus white is a tint. Any color plus gray is a tone. And any color plus black is a shade. So we hear those terms a lot, and a lot of people don't really know what those mean. But so anything with white is a tint, anything with gray is a tone, and anything with black is a shade. So I like to create a lot of tints with my colors. And I always use titanium white because it is the most opaque version of white. Zinc white is very transparent. You would go through half a tube before you were able to create a decent tint. So titanium white is the one that I use the most. It is my favorite white. Now, I felt here that I was losing some of my darks, and I like to have a variety of values. So the difference between the brightest brights and the lightest lights and the darkest darks. So I went back in with gray, and I'm adding some of those darker values back in. So even though we're not creating a thing or something recognizable, it's nice to have a variation in lights and darks and different values in your painting. If everything is the same value, your painting will be very boring. So you want to have some things that parts that are darker and some parts that are lighter. I was losing some of my beautiful creamy yellows, so I came back in and added some of those back in. And I'm having a good time with that. Now, there were parts that I did not film where in between these layers, because I did not want to make mud, I stopped filming and I used a blow dryer to blow dry some of these layers. It's really important to do that because that way your paint colors will remain pure. If you don't want to make a mess with your different colors, and when you switch to different colors, you should always dry in between your layers. It's really important to kind of stand back and really closely look when you're getting to the point where you may think you might be done. And like, I really like to squint and see where I might need to go lighter, what parts of my work might need to become darker, where I want to add, different elements at that point, places I want to add highlights or lowlights. And that's kind of where I am here. I'm just kind of adding those little elements. You could see how much I've slowed down. I'm just kind of looking and adding at this point. And I'm going in and adding details at this point. There were many places in this painting that I could have taken it into other directions and not ended up where I did. There was one part where it was starting to look like a beautiful pink and gray forest, and I was like, ooh, it's starting to look like trees. And I was like, nope, I want to keep it completely non-observational, and I didn't want it to look like anything in particular. So I kind of moved it away from looking like that. Here I'm adding some highlights, lighter parts to my painting because I want to bring out some lighter areas. Yeah, I'm just dabbling in some highlights. And this is where we ended up. The next part was I was taking some collage, and I had the imagery all on the side, and I added a whole bunch of bird images that I had, and I kind of put them down, and then I really took my time arranging and rearranging them in a loose type of grid abstract. So I do a lot of collage work, and I collect whenever I can find them at tag sales or the thrift shop or a charity shop or, a church rummage sale or something like that. I will pick up, used picture books that might be out of date, or if I can get them inexpensively. And so this was like a bird book that I found, I think, at a thrift shop. And it had a lot of really nice bird images. And so here I am just kind of arranging them the way I'd like them to be on my page, and taking my time and just trying to figure out where I want everything to go. I don't want to overcrowd things, and trying to figure out, what sizes go where. And one of the rules of art, or a rule of art and design, is that things should not be right in the center, and odd numbers are more interesting than even numbers, and these are just general rules. And so I like to just kind of take my time and really see what I go more on an intuitive basis, and just kind of see where I like things, or where my eye likes things to rest. And that's what I would recommend. I kind of like to look at the different sizes and how the shapes relate to each other. I mean, I ended up being really lucky because I did no planning whatsoever, that these birds all seem to have colors that went with the painting that I did. And after I put them down, I was like, oh my goodness, they all have the same color, yellow, and some of them had, relatable reds and the white, and I thought that they looked really good together. And then I have a little picture that's the square in the imagery that I'm painting right now. That one had pink flowers. So here I'm using gel matte, and I put gel matte on the painting itself. I put gel matte, which is bone dry, because I blow dry it before I did this part of the process. I put it on the back of the picture, and then I put more on the top. So that's the process that I use, underneath and on top and on the back of the image. And that way you're going to get a really good seal. If you don't put enough gel matte on the part you're adhering it to and on the back of the piece you're attaching, you can get buckling. And so that's why we really try to put it on, the piece you're attaching it to, the back of the image or piece of paper, and then more on top. I like to smooth it off with, you can use an old credit card, or you can use, sometimes I use a pottery rib. I use a pottery rib very often because they're a really nice tool for this purpose. I use a steel rib. I have some plastic pottery ribs that I also use, but an old credit card is just as good. And yeah, that's it. And then at the very end, I like to add just a little extra paint, and that's how I finish them, and they come out really great. So I hope you enjoy this process, and if you do, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for coming.